Hello everyone, a warm good afternoon and a welcome to the resource person, all the participants and the advisors team of ThickNess Learning Community. We, ThickNess Learning Community, are happy to have you here for the international webinar on the science of storytelling. We, ThickNess Learning Community, is a new online startup zeroing in on sharing the knowledge through collaborative studies, professional talk, inspiring and motivating young mind towards entrepreneurial leadership vision through various programs, and accelerating women empowerment that comes to scale up the quality of their life. Our upcoming webinars will cover entrepreneurial success, robotics, PCB designing, along with many more, and certified courses like entrepreneurship, 5G technologies, and ethical hacking, etc. And now, I would like to introduce our dynamic resource person, Mr. Shamir. With 11 years of experience in organic SEO, SMO, ORM, branding, UI UX design, brand storytelling consultant, SEM and digital marketing under his belt, Shamir's profile is pretty much simple to bring in true value to the client's branding and digital marketing process. Shamir's brief stint as a scriptwriter with an animated explanatory video film in Coimbatore helped them to win an award for its animated video explanatory video at the national level from the Election Commission of India in 2015. Storytelling is in his DNA, and he churns out stories of anything from anywhere. With this note, I would like to welcome our resource person, Mr. Shamir. Welcome, sir. And once
Hi,
again, we would like to
Thickness
welcome
Learning.
all the members of Thickness Learning community for a wonderful afternoon. Over to the resource person.
Hope I'm audible,
Yes, sir,
admin.
you are audible.
Okay, thank you. So, good evening, all of you. Good evening, Thickness Learning community. Dr. K. Sansi, the founder, and the entire Thickness Learning team, members, and community. It's a Sunday evening, and it's around the time that we have lunch, and probably we'd like to relax our shoulders a bit, slacken our shoulders a bit. But today, I have a very significant topic to share with you. Rather significant because it has its own applications, it has its own uses. Uh, it it has the ability to influence or impact our life for the future. So, what are we going to discuss today? The Thickness Learning community shared the topic as the science of storytelling. But I'm going to reverse the topic as whether it's story or science. It's so contradictory. Now, you have to tell me one thing whether it's story or science. Okay, it can't be science of storytelling, right? So, I'm going to re engineer the topic as story or science. So, what is that we are going to discuss today? Are we going to discuss the science of storytelling? Is there is a storytelling technique behind? Is there a science behind storytelling technique, or is it a story? Or is there any science behind the storytelling technique? So this is a very significant topic when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to starting your own business, when it comes to pitching your personal brand in front of investors before potential funding sources, when you have to present yourself in for a job interview in a HR room, it has its own kind of significances, applications, and benefits. So it's a very significant topic that we are going to see in the beginning of this new year. So before I start, I wish you all a happy new year. This new year is going to be a very significant one in terms of how 2020 went, the kind of disastrous effect 2020 has had on business and other different areas of everyday living. So from that, let us move on to our first slide. The topic, story or science. And do you have a story to tell? And what is the science behind storytelling? We humans love stories. Yes, stories are the oldest form of communication. It has been in existence time immemorial. Stories are universal. Stories break language barriers, cultures, and international borders. More importantly, stories connect us. They help us to understand the world better. Stories provide a common ground or platform for everybody to communicate, interact, and share experiences. And as youngsters, and even from a very young age, we are trained to hear similar patterns, just like we are trained to sense colors or different kinds of smell. So, about the story, the tradition of storytelling, the history of storytelling. Storytelling has been in existence since 40,000 years ago, since the beginning of cave paintings. The different civilizations like Sumerian civilization, Mesopotamian civilization, Egyptian, the Indo-Aryan civilization like the Mesopotamian civilization has had storytelling techniques. They have had various inscriptions or paintings inscribed on caves, and man used to discuss everyday activities or used to narrate stories to younger generation through these storytelling objects or storytelling engravings on different kinds of stone structures and cave objects. So storytelling dates back to original cave paintings. Cave paintings have the biggest sources of storytelling in general, and this is where the art or the science of storytelling starts. So, what is a brief history on storytelling? Storytelling can be divided into oral storytelling or visual storytelling, written storytelling, and now we have the digital or transmedia storytelling. Starting from visual or oral storytelling, storytelling starts around the age 30,000 BC. That's the primitive art. We have the Chawet cave paintings, murals in short series of events depicting rituals, hunting, eating, mating, and different forms of human activities in different caves around the globe. And around 700 BC, we have the first printed story of a Gilgamesh carved into the city walls. And the city walls, especially the Egyptian, the Sumerian, the Mesopotamian, and the Iranian civilization, was full of a cave, the engravings or printings into city walls. Civilization started through communicating these stories in caves and city walls. And around 1000 BC, we had ancient Greek myths and legends like Homer's Iliad, Odyssey, different epic stories of Greek myths and legends depicting storytelling in a wider extent. Around 200 BC, we had the Bible communicating to its worshippers, to religious person, on different stories of the gods, of prophets, of messiahs. And around the 17th century, we had the idea of fairy tales. It comes out of France, England, Germany, Russia, and different parts of Europe. And around 1700, 700 AD, we had the modern newspapers and other communication medium. Around 1826, we had the first photographic visual storytelling. The art of storytelling, the photography, was born. Around 1949, we have different master plots, different techniques, and we had technology gradually coming into play in storytelling. Around late 20th century, modern magazines became one of the biggest sources of mass media storytelling. And after 20th century, the dawn of a 21st century, we now have digital storytelling or transmedia storytelling. So start off with, even in terms of literature, even in terms of religious scriptures, most religious scriptures like Mahabharata, Ramayanam, Jataka tales, that is based on Jainism, the Buddhist Dhammapada tales, the Quran, the Bible used storytelling to convey the moral values and culture of a particular religion, culture, or a tradition. And mind you, this storytelling tradition shaped civilizations, it shaped cultures, it shaped the modern society that we are in. Storytelling is the biggest, has been the biggest vehicle of conveying traditional cultures, values, and um, the the different facets of culture and religion into the modern society. So from history, we are coming into the subject of brain science. Um, so may look a little bit complex, but let me just break down to you. 90% of the information that is transmitted to the brain is visual. 50% of your brain is capable of active visual processing. 40% of people respond to it, to visuals or storytelling. 70% of your sensory receptors are in your eyes. So this is the structure of brain science, where 90% of information transmitted to the brain is only visual, and we respond to it in a manner that is understandable, that is comprehensible in a visual manner. And this explains the concept, the significance of storytelling, and the use of visual images to broadcast, to convey our ideas in a very understandable and comprehensible manner that human minds can understand. So before we move on to this part, you need to understand that the brain is divided into two hemispheres: the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. The left hemisphere is the area of emotional storytelling. It is where story starts. It is where the brain absorbs the emotional capabilities of a story, the different facets of a story. The right brain is all about memory. So when the left brain and the right brain unifies, we bring out stories after stories out of memory. So you need to understand that the left brain is all about the storytelling techniques, and this is where this is the area, the hemisphere where stories start to generate. So what are the different hormones that impact storytelling, and how does it impact storytelling in a way that the brain can generate and convey to our users? Starting with dopamine, the brain releases dopamine in response to an emotionally charged event. So when there is a conflict, or when there is a pattern that is recognized by the brain, dopamine is released, and in response, it generates pleasurable response, um, the capability of memory and recalling. Next, cortisol. The brain releases cortisol whenever it experiences attention and memory. The third is oxytocin. The oxytocin is released when the brain started when the brain starts to respond empathy, and when there is a connection, and when there is a compassion and trust. So most business relationship or personal relationships through storytelling happens when this vital hormone called oxytocin is released, and it happens in response to a pattern or a series of patterns between the storyteller and the listener. The next important concept is neural coupling. Neural coupling is nothing but the coupling, or the mirroring that happens between the storyteller and the listener. So storytelling happens when a listener and the storyteller is able to send a series of waves that is in unison, or when it synchronizes with a set or a definite wave pattern. We'll see more about neural coupling in the next slide in a quite understandable manner. So mirroring is one of the most important techniques of NLP, or neuro linguistic programming. Mirroring happens when our brain neurons enable listeners to mirror an experience. For example, when if you are a storyteller about to tell you a story to a listener, the listener essentially mirrors the experience that the storyteller has to share, and thus there generates a series of wave, and this series of wave is capable of reaching the listener's brain, and mirroring happens through neurons and nerve cells. Cortical activities. There are two areas of the brain that are activated when processing facts. Stories activate many additional areas such as the motor cortex, the sensory cortex, and the frontal lobe cortex of the brain. So this is essentially what we call as brain science, or what exactly happens in the brain when we listen to stories, when we try to absorb the stories, or when we try to reproduce the stories. I would like to reinstate neural coupling in a comprehensive manner in the next slide. So this is what exactly happens when a speaker or when a storyteller narrates a story. There's a definite brain waves or brain patterns that are generated. The listener, in turn, uses his neurons to generate a definite series of brain patterns or brain waves. And when there is a synchronization of brain waves or fixed brain patterns between the speaker and the listener for a prolonged time, neural coupling happens. And when this phenomenon occurs frequently, the listener is able to listen to the stories of the speaker. He is able to absorb it, and he is able to reproduce out of memory. So this is the brain science behind neural coupling and the art of storytelling. So when we go to the next aspect of storytelling, which is nothing but persuasion, we have to understand the Robert Cialdini persuasion model, which is very, very vital when it comes to storytelling in a professional or even um, a non-professional environment. So there are 6 principles of persuasion that was first developed by a professor called Robert Cialdini, based out of London. He developed a persuasion model for storytellers, uh, a 6 grid model, which starts with reciprocity. When we receive something, when we feel that we are supposed to give something back, there arises a persuasion, like just like a give and take model that we normally recommend. Next is consistency. If we feel that a particular story is consistent with our beliefs, with our trust, with our commitment model, then we start to believe the storyteller in a way that we consistently follow him. To the extreme, to the level that we start to follow him, and he becomes an influencer. So consistency is a very important aspect of a storyteller. He has to be consistent with his followers, with his fans, or with his loyalists. So there is maximum absorption of all his stories or experience that he has to give to his users or loyalists. Social proof. We started to believe a story when there is a social proof. So as storytellers, we need to have social proof or social indication that my particular story or my point of view is relevant socially, um, in a way that it is acceptable with the social norms, with the society or environment with it. So any storyteller or a storytelling technique or a story should have social proof in a way that the listener can relate to it socially and absorb it. So that should be a liking. For example, if Rajinikanth or Kamala Hassan or any other movie star or entertainment celebrity has a story, there is a predilection or there is a liking by default when it comes. It is because of the influence that a celebrity or a movie star or a cricket star, and if he has to share a story to his loyalists, to his fans or followers, there is an immediate liking. That is how modern social media influencers are able to generate stories after stories and attract their users or customer base. Authority. When a storyteller has an authority, when he thinks that he has the command or the respect garnered uh, by his loyalist or his customer base or his fans for his authority, listeners can immediately relate to the authority of the storyteller. And authority is one of the most important facets of storytelling, any storytelling concept for that matter. If Narendra Modi or the president of India has a story to tell, people listen to it, people accept it, people absorb it because of the authority that a storyteller can wield over his fan base or loyalist or dedicated customer base. The final one is scarcity. When we think that there is something that we lack, but at the same time, if there is something that the storyteller can give you, when there is scarcity, when you feel short of something, but the other person has it, when he has a story to tell, you automatically cling to the storyteller and listen to his story. So scarcity is also one of the important techniques that storytellers use when they feel that there is something that is lagging in his fan base or customer circle. He picks that particular point that he terms it as scarcity and generates stories based on that scarcity, or what he feels that his customer or his loyal fan base or his followers wants, and it generates stories based on what they would prefer listening to. So these six principles form the core of storytelling techniques: reciprocity, consistency, social proof or the social need, liking or preference, authority or dominance or control, or scarcity. This slide is very important, and you need to master this slide in order to become a good storyteller. So, what is the structure of a storytelling? So, any storytelling would start with exposition. For example, if I have to give it in the form of a movie, the movie stars, the movie star comes appears in the very first scene, which is nothing but exposition, and slowly the story rises to a climax. There are a lot of plots, as you can see, the into symbols that you find just rising. The story just starts to rise in the second phase. The movie star, or I might call the hero of the story, does some action. There is a plot, and there is a rising action due to the multiple story plots that we have. The third phase is crisis. The story gets into a crisis where the hero gets into a trouble. The villain tries to subdue him. The heroine comes. The hero gets into some sort of crisis or a problem-solving situation where he has to solve in order for the story to get going. The fourth phase is climax, when the problem is solved or when the hero comes out of the crisis, but there is a climax or the resolution which forms the fourth phase. And the fifth phase is nothing but the falling action. All the problem resolution or problem solution comes to an end, and the story comes to an end with an abrupt fall or a planned fall in the fifth stage. This is the typical story structure of any movie in the world, any kind of entertainment feature, or any kind of a cinematic aspect, or which is based on storytelling. I repeat, the first phase starts from exposition. The story, there are multiple story plots that gives rise to the rising action. The third stage is nothing but a crisis. The hero gets into a trouble, or he gets into a soup. He comes out of it. Then it forms the climax, and the story descent into a falling action. This is the complete story structure of a story, or what I call it as the dramatic art. And this is the structure that most storytellers follow even today. So, what do we do when it comes to a business storytelling pitch? So, let me relate this dramatic art to what we as entrepreneurs or business storytellers like me usually follow. We start with the problem of a startup. We start with the problem of a business. We define it. For example, water shortage can be a problem. I mean, a social problem. Women menstruation can be a social problem. It need have to be a social problem. It can be a business problem. There are lots of business problems around. We start with the problem definition, and for the problem that we define, we give a proper solution. We When the solution is commercialized, it becomes a business model. From solution, we explain the features or the benefits of a particular product or solution or services. Next, we discuss the benefits. What are the benefits that the customer derives out of a particular problem, the particular solution or a service or a product. What are the key takeaways that your customer would get out of my product or service or solution? Then we introduce the brand, the legacy, the history, and the team, everything, and then we come to a strong call to action. The call to action should be in a way that your users or your customers or your clients should immediately relate to and do some action uh, uh, for you to do business with them. This is the structure of a business storytelling that we as storytellers normally follow. So now we have discussed the history of storytelling, how storytelling really came into being. We discussed the science behind storytelling. We discussed the structure of a storytelling arc. Next, we move on to business storytelling pitch. Now we come to the house. Okay, the house, HOW, house. So how do we really become a storyteller? What are the techniques, or what are the means by which you can develop into a storyteller? First, you have to be conversational. Your stories have to be authentic, right? It should not have fake, false promises or fake promises. It can't be. It should not have empty messaging. It can only hurt your brand or your personality. You have to be real instead. You have to be human. You have to be emotional. And it's just like, you're talking to your friend or your relative or your spouse or your parents. So honesty and transparency are important in storytelling. Yes, you are crafting stories, but you need to be really rooted in your reality. Now, I mentioned as brand or product or industry, but it can be your inner personality as well. So any storytelling technique that is based on your inner personality, your nature, has a lot of authenticity that you can share with your listeners, your customers, or your user base. So your stories have to be real, it has to be human, it has to be empathetic, it has to be human centric, and it should have a lot of emotions, respect for your listeners. And when you have these kind of conversational strategies or tactics, they listen to your story immediately, and your intended action happens. Then you need to choose your words very wisely. Right? The kind of words that you use, the kind of vocabulary, it has to suit your targeted audience. You need to have the right tone, you need to have the right voice, and you need to have the right communication. Still, your communication style should match with the value of your audience. And how do you know what this should be and what words you should choose is what is all choosing your words. And every time you choose your words, you choose your vocabulary, choose the jargon, it should um, it should surround your customer base or your loyalists. Don't use words that your listeners or your users can't understand. The words that you use should go with their aspiration, with their values, and with their ambitions and what they expect out of you. So this is a very important point. You have to choose your words very wisely. And you have to have an architecture. Your core message or your core storytelling technique should have an architecture. You should carefully position your story. You should have a plan, or what I call a strategic planning. You can't expect good stories to come out of thin air. You can take any technique for that matter. I have discussed two techniques with you, the story arc and the business structure of storytelling. You can use any of these techniques. These are basic techniques that we all use, but you need to have a definite message architecture. You have to get your messaging right. You need to craft your message in a way that underscore your brand values, or your inner person, your values, or your inner personality, the way you usually communicate. And any structure, any message, or any story structure that you craft for your users or for your loyalists should go with a definite architecture. And as I said, it requires a lot of planning, it requires a lot of foresight, and you have to understand this architecture or this planning from your listeners' point of view, whoever it might be. A story, when it comes to storytelling, or when it comes to essentially presence, there are two types of presence. One is online or on-site, or offline or off-site. Make sure that the stories that you generate to your users or your listeners are aligned both online and offline. You can't have a separate story when you come online, say on Facebook, on YouTube, and have a contradictory story when you speak in front of a capacity crowd. So you should have your stories or your messages aligned to suit both online and offline medium. It should be genuine, as I said, it should be transparent, but more importantly, when you narrate a story, ensure that the story is um, the same on both communication channels, online or on site, or offline or offsite. So people who are successful storytellers, people who are successful entrepreneurs, individuals who are very good politicians have stories to narrate in the same way, both online and offline. So understand the different mediums that you use, and tailor your stories to suit all the medium or channels, namely online and offline. So, who are some entrepreneurs? Are very good storytellers. Richard Branson, Virgin Group, has a story to tell every time he writes a book or speaks to his audience or users or customers. He makes best use of storytelling techniques. Richard Branson is one of my favorite storytellers when it comes to business storytelling. We have Arunachalam Muruganandam of Coimbatore, who's running Jayashree Industries. People uh, who don't know him should watch the movie The Padman, acted by Akshay Kumar. I think this movie came a year or so back. He was the first entrepreneur, or the first male to wear a sanitary napkin. Today, he manufactures sanitary napkin for women at a rate of 2 rupees, or in term, or in other words, it's 80% less than what a normal sanitary napkin manufacturer charges his or her customers. He's a great storyteller from the land of Coimbatore. He's one of my favorite storytellers as well. Just Google Arnachalam Muruganandam. He has a lot of stories to share on TEDx and other various social media channels. So great entrepreneurs are storytellers. Great storytellers also make great entrepreneurs. You need to listen to different storytellers, different entrepreneurs to understand the techniques that they use to push their central core message or value every time. So, what are the storytelling style guide that normally storytellers? This is a kind of a style guide or a route to take when you need to form a story around your core value, business, product, or solution. You have to be definite with your goal. You have to have the right audiences. You have to have the core concept. You have to reinforce your core concepts every time the user or audience visits your website or your YouTube channel, or when he hears you talking in front of a capacity crowd. You need to have the right tone. You need to have the time. You need to have the tone that empathizes with your users or audience base. You need to have the right perspective, and you need to have the right voice, whether it's conversational or formal or informal or somewhere in between the conversational, formal, or informal styles. So, what are the key takeaways of today's presentation? Human to human communications at the heart of marketing or any business or day to day process. Brand storytelling is a technique that can reinforce these bonds or relationship between different aspects of day-to-day activities. Stories can give your company, your brand, or your product, or your service or solution a very powerful voice, regardless of whether you're running an enterprise or organization, small business or startup, or if you are a celebrity, or if you are looking to become a celebrity or a movie star. Storytelling is medium agnostic. Storytelling can be used in any medium through blog posts, customer help centers, your website, your videos, your podcast, infographics, of any medium that you name it. Storytelling can be used in a very cost effective manner. Of course, storytelling is very cost effective. You need to have the right story to pull in your customers or users every time. You need to formalize your story to build connections, both, as I said, online and offline, especially if you're looking to build a powerful brand or a PR strategy around it. Storytelling is more than what you say. It's your core values, it's how you communicate, and it's why you communicate your message and how you connect with your target audiences. Storytelling concepts can be vague. It can be abstract sometimes. It can be tough to plan, but you have to rely on your sources. You have to sort out your cards. You need to do a lot of exercise. You need to get your message architecture right. You need to broaden your vision. You need to broaden your how the style guide to articulate your strategy, and you need to scale that effort, the storytelling effort, across your team or a customer base. Brand storytelling are cross-functional commitments that you can also use across the entire organization, your internal customers. There are a lot of organizations that effectively use business stories to influence their employees or staff. If there are different stories or different messages that you can put across your sales team, your customer support team, your product managers, your engineers, your executive, or even an entry level professional who's new to your organization. These storytelling techniques or aspects that you craft for your team, for your organization team, can have a huge impact in the way that they perform. And of course, the same stories that you generate can impact your customer or your user base team as well. These are the key takeaways of any storytelling technique, professionally or even in a non-professional environment. So I am a national award winning storyteller, um, from the Election Commission of India. In the year 2015, we made two story for them. One is the role of women in election, the role of youth in election. These two videos that we made for Election Commission of India enabled me to win the national award for my storytelling technique. So if you want to create a story for yourself, for your team, for your customers, for your user base, or for your friends or your relatives, if you want to impress upon your target audience, just visit bythestartups.com, or you can talk to me or write to me at Shamir at bythestartups.com. I'll be happy to help you to become you, to help you to become a very effective and a very active storyteller. So uh, I come to the end of this rather very short presentation that I have for you. There are a lot of storytelling. In fact, there are about 30 to 35 known storytelling structures that we as storytellers use in our day-to-day storytelling activities. But for now, we need to understand that there are a lot of stories around that you can use for a business and a non-professional environment, and you can effectively use these techniques that I have just explained to you to impact your life and others around you. Thank you so much, the ThickNess Learning community, for today's rather short presentation. I hope the community, your users, the participants have benefited out of my storytelling presentation. I wish you again a very happy new year. Become a good storyteller. Create good, authentic stories for you, for yourself, and for the environment around you. Thank you once again, ThickNess Learning community.
Yeah, Shamir, it's an excellent session. Wonderful. Really, it's so far we have been organizing technical sessions. It's an excellent session. Yeah, it's a time for vote of thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm and pleasant good evening to all. At the outset, wish you happy new year uh, to 2021. It gives me an immense pleasure to propose the vote of thanks for this wonderful occasion, international webinar on the science of storytelling. I would like to thank today's resource person, Mr. Shamir, founder by the Startups Business Community, Coimbatore, who honored this program. Despite his busy schedule, has found time to grace us with his wonderful lecture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
I am also very grateful to ThickNess Learning Community, young and dynamic founder, Mr. Kritik Raja, and members of TLC for their encouragement, backing, arrangement, valuable contribution, and wonderful support to make this webinar grand success. Last but not least, I would like to thank all business learning community beloved participants from different positions for showing their interest in this webinar for making this event as a resounding success. ThickNess Learning Community upcoming webinars are soft skills for business success, career opportunities in robotics, PCB designing, opportunities in data sciences and Python programming, etc. Once again, I thank one and all present here. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.